What happened to Abigail Williams and her best friend Liberty German? Part 5, Persons of Interest. When this sketch was released, authorities found that people, particularly internet sleuths, were posting side-by-side images of people they believed to be suspects in the sketch. While authorities believe that these people generally have good intentions, they have said it's not only damaging to the investigation but also puts the person pictured, as well as their livelihoods, children, and families, at risk. Nonetheless, the side-by-side images spread across the internet. There have been very few known suspects or persons of interest since the day of the murders. The first big, publicized break that would bring the case back to the surface was the arrest of Daniel Nations, who was apprehended at a traffic stop in Colorado for wielding a hatchet and threatening people on a trail. Nations would later be suspected of the murder of Tim Watkins, an unsolved case that had occurred on the same trail only 2 weeks prior. In Nations' car, a red Chevy Prism, was a hatchet and a .22 caliber rifle. Nations had an extensive criminal record, including petty offenses, domestic violence, and was also a registered sex offender who was charged with indecent exposure after having masturbated in front of a young woman in South Carolina. Nations had connections to Indiana and had claimed to be homeless and living underneath an Indiana 67 bridge in Morgan County since January 31, 2017. Indiana State Police had questioned Nations in October, where they had also obtained his DNA for further processing. In December, Indiana State Police stated that Nations was still being looked at, but he was not currently their top priority. On February 14, the day after the murders were committed, Nations was present for his weekly checkup with authorities and had been consistently attending in the time prior. As of January 5, 2018, Nations pleaded guilty to menacing and was sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation. Nations has not been legally accused of being involved in Watkins' murder. Another person of interest, then 53-year-old Thomas Bruce, surfaced in November of 2018. On November 19, Bruce entered a religious supply store in St. Louis, Missouri, where he forced 3 women, including 53-year-old customer Jamie Schmidt, and 2 employees, into a back room. Bruce ordered the 3 women to disrobe and perform sexual acts. However, Schmidt refused to comply with Bruce's demands and was fatally shot in the head. Indiana State Police contacted St. Louis police after noting physical similarities between Bruce and the composite sketch. When asked if Bruce had any connection to the Delphi murders, Indiana State Police answered that it was too premature to say. Indiana State Police have not commented on Bruce since. By 2019, another person of interest came to light. In January of 2019, then 46-year-old Charles Eldridge was apprehended during an undercover sting operation in Union City, Indiana after he arranged to have sexual intercourse with a Randolph County police officer who was posing as a 13-year-old girl. Eldridge was charged with 2 counts of child molestation. When this news circulated, Indiana residents began flooding the Delphi tipline by bringing Indiana State Police's attention to the recent charges. Many callers noted the physical resemblance between Eldridge and the composite sketch. Furthermore, it has been revealed that Eldridge was familiar with the Delphi murders, and had previously posted about Abby and Libby on his social media accounts, uploaded photos that he took on nature trails, and appeared to have owned several guns. Inundated by calls, Indiana State Police was forced to release a statement regarding Eldridge's arrest. Indiana State Police stated, "The Delphi multi-agency investigative team and participating agencies continued to receive media and public inquiries asking about the person arrested on January 8, 2019, in Union City, Randolph County, Indiana for allegations of sexually related crimes against children and if he is connected to the Delphi investigation. The team is aware of this arrest and will investigate to see if there could be any connection to the murders that occurred in Delphi, Indiana on February 14, 2017. The victims were 14-year-old Liberty German and 13-year-old Abigail Williams. Delphi is located about 20 miles northeast of Lafayette. It is important for the public and media to know that many similar tips and arrests of other people alleged to be connected to the Delphi murders occur with some frequency in and outside of Indiana. Each tip, whether it receives media attention or not, is investigated for any connection to the Delphi case. That said, members of the Delphi multi-agency investigative team do not speak to specific actions or steps of the ongoing investigation. In the end, none of these persons of interest led to an arrest, and as of now, investigators are still searching for the suspect. FBI agent Greg Massa presented a behavioral profile of the suspect. For instance, Massa asked the public to think of an individual in their lives who has, for instance, inexplicably cancelled an appointment you had had together, an individual who called into work sick and cancelled an important appointment or engagement, and at the time, what would have been a plausible explanation: my cell phone broke or I had a flat tire. But in retrospect, that excuse no longer holds water. That may be important. Behavioral indicators this individual may have exhibited since the 13th include: did this individual travel unexpectedly? Did they change their appearance? Did they shave their beard, cut their hair, change the color of their hair? The superintendent mentioned that the clothes this individual was wearing in the photo. Did they change the way they dress? Massa also asked people to pay attention to behaviors that are being exhibited more suddenly, such as a sudden change in sleep pattern, sudden abuse of substances, as well as sudden anxiousness or irritability.